This podcast is for anyone who has ever felt stuck, whether it's a major life transition, a dark night of the soul, or just staying small out of fear. If you've ever struggled to move forward, if you're repeating unhealthy patterns in relationships, or you have a black belt in beating yourself up, you were meant for more, and this podcast is for you. We'll get real, we'll get vulnerable, we'll probably cuss a little bit, and we'll get to the root of it all, your self-worth. With every step, you'll find the courage to rise.
Well, Christmas is behind us, and now we look forward to New Year's. Now, I have long held the belief that New Year's Eve is highly overrated. Now, let me say, if you love yourself some New Year's Eve, get it, girl. Get it. My observation over the years was that all the times I tried to make it this really big, amazing blowout, it ended up just being incredibly anticlimactic. And my very favorite New Year's Eves have been when either I'm with a group of friends, we're chilling at somebody's house, playing some games, wine or no wine, drink or no drink, depending on your preference. And then the ball drops, we all celebrate, and then we all go home at like 12:15. That's fun to me. What's equally fun to me has been watching the ball drop when I am in mountain time at 10 o'clock and going to bed. Because let's be honest, who really wants to stay up that late anymore? It's just overrated and you feel like trash the next day. But hey, you do you. This podcast is not actually about your choices on New Year's Eve. This podcast is about the entire concept of the new year. And I did a podcast years ago about setting intentions and how the concept of resolutions really don't work. So I think that this has evolved more in recent years as people have sort of seen the folly of the concept of New Year's resolutions. But think about it, if you have ever had a New Year's, or if you have had this experience, this used to be, I feel like, a much bigger thing many years ago. And I do think it started to evolve a little more now, but I think there's still a little bit of a breakdown that needs to happen of this idea of quote unquote resolutions. So there can be this belief of, what's your New Year's resolution? And usually people's New Year's resolution would be, I'm going to go to the gym every single day in whatever the year is, right? Or they make this sweeping statement about this thing that they're going to change. I'll stop smoking. I'll lose 30 pounds. I'll whatever, right? And then what happens? Let's take the example of the resolution of, I'm going to go to the gym every single day. So let's say that they haven't been a consistent gym goer. They haven't consistently taken care of themselves when it comes to food or activity or whatever. Well, so now you're going to do this major new thing and go to the gym every single day. This usually lasts for about 2 weeks. When I used to go to an actual gym, which has been since 2008 that I belong to a gym. I do home workouts now. I did this long before everyone discovered this was cool during COVID, but big fan. Anyway, and I would notice that wave of people in January. For the first 2 weeks, the gym was packed. And then it would start to trickle off, because here's what happens. That initial rush of momentum gets you going for the first 2 weeks. And then what's happened from this example, from a physical standpoint, your body has now been pushed way beyond its limits. It's tired. Now it's going, hey, I actually need some more rest than that. And you've set this goal to go every single day, which is really, if you don't set that properly, you're setting yourself up to fail, right? And so then 2 weeks into the new year, all of a sudden your body's like, ma'am, I need a rest day. And so you do one of two things. You either go ahead and push yourself through that and really hurt yourself, right? Or you don't go, and then you don't go, and then you don't go. And then all of a sudden you create this story that Well, I can never change. I've tried to change X, but it never works. And this is the fundamental flaw, in my opinion, with the concept of resolutions and even sometimes with the concept of intentions. Although I like intentions much better than resolutions, and I'll go into why in a little bit. But when we go to create a change in our life, there's a very particular way that we want to go about it if we really want to be successful. And this is literally the entirety of my coaching. It's the entirety of my training, is how to actually create real lasting change. Because I am obsessed with this concept, because I fundamentally in the core of my being believe that any human can change absolutely anything it is that they want, whether it is breaking an addiction to alcohol or drugs, whether it is changing their body composition, their financial situation, habits, patterns. It doesn't matter what it is 100% possible to change. I didn't say it was easy, but the concepts are actually simple. And when it comes to these quote unquote New Year's resolutions, that's usually what it's been. It's been, I'm going to do this massive change. All of a sudden, I'm going to change absolutely everything I'm doing, and I'm going to be perfect at it. And then 2 weeks into it, it's just not sustainable. And so we stop doing it. We create the story that I can never change. And this also comes from this idea that just because the calendar goes from December 31st of whatever year to January 1st of whatever year, that somehow that is the clean slate you've been looking for. The year is turning over. You have to be perfect this year. You have to get it right this year. And it just frankly creates this false expectation. Because here's the truth, and this will blow your mind if you really sit with this concept. All this shit is made up. We have all universally agreed to the Gregorian calendar that December 31st marks the end of the calendar year and January 1st marks the beginning of a new year. But all this shit is made up. It's not real. We just all agree to this as a system of measuring time. So I say that to you because I want you to take within yourself this idea that, first of all, you do not have to wait for the calendar to turn over, for the week to turn over, for the month or the year. You don't have to wait. You get to decide if on June 13th of 2025, you say, this is my stake in the ground and I'm going to start to create change in my life. So be it. That's your new year, right? I think there's a lot of pressure and expectation and weirdness that can get piled on. Gravity is really the word I'm looking for. A lot of gravity that can get piled on the changing of the year and all this expectation. And the truth is, you're not going to wake up on January 1st, all of a sudden, completely embodied in this new version of you. You're not. Now, that's not to say that you can't wake up and feel those feelings of that new version of you. And I highly recommend you do this. And you're going to have the same challenges to overcome. The difference is now you've set an intention to overcome them. But going into it with this idea that just because the calendar turns over, all of a sudden I'm going to be perfect with my finances, I'm going to be perfect with my health, with my eating, with this, with that, is really setting us up for disappointment. And it's setting us up for this cycle of feeling like we can never change. And I have an exercise that I send out to my clients every year. And a few years ago, I started making it publicly available. I'll drop the link in the show notes for you. And it's a New Year's coaching exercise. And I've been doing it for years personally. I have evolved it for my clients because it really sets you up in a way that it allows you to do one thing that a lot of people forget to do or neglect to do, which is to reflect on the year that passed. And again, we're just using the new year as an opportunity to do this, right? All this shit is made up. Pick your own personal new year. But for the sake of argument, we're going to use the calendar turning over to 2025. So you reflect then on 2024, on this year that passed. And I guide my clients through questions to really anchor in what were the things that happened in 2024? Who did you show up as in the year that passed? What are you most grateful for? Where did you grow? What were some of your favorite memories? Really taking time to anchor in and to thoughtfully reflect on who you were in that year. Who were you at work? Who were you in your relationships? Who were you in relationship to your health and fitness, to your money, to the goals and dreams and desires that you have, to your own personal regenerative space and reflection? But the concept of it is to allow you to reflect on the past so you can really mine the gold from it, and then also help to use that to plan for the year ahead of you, or for the day ahead of you, or for the month ahead of you. And so when we do this, when it comes to intentions, formerly known as resolutions, what it's doing is it's helping us see what are the things that I did this year. From that, what are the things I want to carry forward into the new year? What are the things that really didn't work for me, or I didn't like the outcome of those actions or those ways of being? Because if there's something that you are intending for yourself, a one specific area in particular that you want to put your attention on for the coming year, then you're going to have to roll up your sleeves and get serious about it. And I don't mean serious in like a heavy, gross way, but I mean serious in a, all right, this is my flag in the ground and I'm changing this shit because I am worth so much more than to continue on with how I've been doing this. And when you're reflecting on how that thing went for you in the year that passed, you get to see what worked and what didn't. So now you've got that gold to carry forward and say, all right, so now I know what didn't work for me or what didn't work quite as well or what I would like to evolve. And now I can build on that for this next year as I start to plan out my intentions for who I'm going to be in this area. And the next part of that exercise is the transition period. And when I say transition period, it's really just sort of looking at, okay, this was last year. Here's where I am right now, here in the middle, doing my planning and intention setting and vision casting for the year ahead, and really thinking about who is it that I want to be? Is there any messiness or cloudiness in this transition period? Meaning, is there something hanging over my head that I need to do that's draining my energy, that I need to either disconnect from my life, or is there an energy leak somewhere? Is there something I need to tend to that I need to clean up before I move my energy into the new year? And so it's just really a nice way to move through that transition period and go, all right, is there any messiness here? Because it's time to start with fresh eyes, right? And then we move into casting the intentions for the new year. And remember, sometimes it can be so tempting to be like, I'm going to change absolutely everything about me, and I'm going to wake up on January 1st and I'm going to be so inspired, and I'm never going to feel this way, and I'm always going to feel that way. And you just, please don't do that. We know that doesn't work. And I can give you all the science behind why that won't work, and why not understanding how your body is actually habitually wired to do certain things and to make certain decisions without you being consciously aware is going to set you up to think that you're not succeeding in what you've set out to do, when that's not actually what's really happening. But with this intention setting for the new year, I really invite you to look at, who are you committed to being in 2025? And this is looking at you from the lens of, there is nothing broken about you. You do not need to be fixed. When we talk about intention setting for the new year, really what it is designed to be in its highest expression is your ultimate self-love, your evolution as a conscious human being to say, I love myself so much that here are the areas where I really want to continue to grow and evolve in a really beautiful way because I'm worth it. And my happiness is worth it. And I do believe that I create my own life and my own reality. And so you can look at what are the things that I really want to focus on in this year to come? What do I want more of? What do I want less of? And you ask yourself the questions of what do I want to build? What do I want to create? And remember that this question can be on whatever scale you want it to be, because sometimes the other thing that happens is that we feel we need to have these grandiose goals or purpose, whatever. And really, sometimes the most successful things can be, I just want to be 1% kinder every day. If that is your intention and that is your only intention for the year ahead, and you are going to live that and embrace that in every breath and every moment, and when you find yourself falling away from it, you bring yourself back to it. You may say, well, that's just not enough. Like, that's not enough of a change. That's not enough of a switch. That's bullshit, because I can tell you, if that is your only intention for the new year and you really give your all to it, you will literally change your entire life by just that one intention and by living it and being it and embodying it. And you'll ultimately change a lot of other people's lives too. But my point in illustrating that for you is I really want you to disconnect from the idea that anything is too big or too small, or that anything that you've decided to create is not enough. Because more is not better, more is just more. So the purpose of these types of exercise really should be to get you thinking, to get you reflecting, to get you focused on what is the thing that I really want to put my intention toward. Are there habits? Are there patterns that are keeping me from being that highest expression of myself? And in putting my intention toward that, I'm going to decide to shift it. So I also have a part of the exercise where I invite you to go through the different segments of your wheel of life. And the wheel of life concept is, if you have a car, a bicycle, or if you are remotely familiar with the concept of a wheel, which I hope you all are, a wheel that is out of balance is not going to roll smoothly down the road. It's going to thunk all over the place and make hellacious noise and eventually damage your suspension, all the things. And so the idea of this is to look at the major life categories and go, where is something here very much off balance? And what areas are working very well for me? And where do I want to put a little more intention, maybe into certain areas that have been neglected? For example, I go through and I ask, usually for like a ranking system. You don't have to do this, but it's just a way to kind of evaluate like what's going really well. What are the areas that need more intention? Your career may be at a 10. You may be really feeling it. And you're like, great, that's amazing. But my health is at a 1 because I've really been neglecting it. Or my health is at a 10, but I'm really not happy in my career, right? So if your health is at a 10, then look at all the things you're doing and keep doing them, right? And if your career is at a 1, then that shows you where there's some area for you to shift and evolve and just put some attention to. And the biggest thing as you think about shifting anything in your life for this arbitrary turn of the calendar is really about, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be at work? Who do you want to be when it comes to your health and fitness? Who do you want to be with friends, with strangers? How do you want to be, and who do you want to be with your money? And asking the question of who you will be is really helping you to put together the picture of the next conscious evolution of yourself. Again, you are perfect just as you are in all of your imperfections. There is nothing to be fixed. You are perfect as you are. And growth is an imperative of the human experience. And so it is natural and it is healthy to grow and evolve. So keep that in mind, because it can be so easy as we do these types of exercises to begin to shame ourselves and shit on ourselves. And we just don't do that in my world. We lovingly see it and we go, nope, not doing that anymore. That's not helpful. We don't like that. So think about that as you start to cast these intentions for the year ahead. And then I love this practice of coming up with a defining word or phrase that can be a checkpoint, a gut check, a guidepost, a guiding light for you in the year to come. Over the years, I have had words like awareness, surrender, expansion, intention. It really very much depends on where you are in your own personal evolution. And don't be afraid to use a phrase or a series of words. It's just the idea is we want it to be something that really resonates with you and something that will have meaning for you as a reminder of who you committed to being. And in doing that, it really helps to give you intention behind what you're doing, because it will be so much easier for you to default back to the old way of being, and it will take you creating some kind of interrupt to catch yourself and go, wait a minute, I'm going back to this old thing that I said I wasn't going to do anymore because I wanted to do things in a new way. And so that word or that phrase can serve as your reminder. And I also strongly recommend that in any kind of intention setting, any kind of future casting practice that you do like this, I don't even just recommend, this is actually kind of a mandatory thing for creating change, is daily practices and daily reminders to really put you in a position to create the consistent change. Because, as you've heard me say, your life is the result of your daily choices. And so in order to change, you have to change those choices that you're making on a daily basis. And so when you have set out with a word or an intention for the year, and every day you have some kind of practice to remind yourself of it, then it's going to become part of who you are because you're doing it habitually. And your brain loves things that you do habitually, because when you do something every day, your brain, in its highly efficient wisdom, goes, hold on, you do this thing a lot. Let me create a macro around it. It's not really a macro, but it's a great analogy. Let me create a macro around this so you don't have to think about doing this. You just do it without thinking, right? I'm going to conserve energy. This is how we form habits, positive or negative. And so in taking that intention and looking at how you're going to bring it into your life every day, every single choice point that shows up, you now have a map for what you're going to do and how you're going to move forward, because you've taken the time to really put the intention around the choices that you're going to make to create this new shift in this area of your life. And finally, as I round this out, remember to give yourself a massive amount of grace. If you sit down to do this type of exercise and you feel super inspired about what's ahead, that's incredible. Keep doing what you're doing. If you sit down to do this exercise and you start to feel a heaviness come over you, check in and see what that heaviness is about. Because sometimes it can be this unconscious feeling that we have that we are not okay as we are, that our entire life is a shit show, that we have to change absolutely everything about ourselves. And it may feel true, but I promise you it's really not true. Wherever you are right now in this moment is exactly where you are meant to be in your evolution. And your only job is continue to ask the questions and continue to ask those questions with so much love about how can I take where I am and add 1% more grace, 1% more intention, 1% more love and spaciousness to this. Because what happens when you bring in this concept of 1% a day, or 1% a minute or an hour, whatever resonates with you, but when you bring in this idea of 1%, all of a sudden it breaks things down to where they are very, very manageable. And where the only thing that you quote unquote have to do is make the next right choice. And when I say right, I do not get on board with this whole right or wrong polarity thing. But when I say right, I mean the next right choice for you. So if your intention was to be 1% kinder to everyone and yourself, because you should always include yourself in that first and foremost, 1%, that's an easy goal to set, right? That's just making one small micro choice that's just a little bit different than a choice you would have made before. And to round us out now with this idea of 1%, as you start to look ahead to your next calendar year, or whenever it is you decide that you want to put some intention into something that you're creating, remember these concepts that we've talked about. Remember to really focus on, all right, what are the things that I did before that these things worked, these things maybe didn't get the outcome that I wanted, so I need to do something differently. And look at what is that intention that you have for what it is you want to create. If you want to create wealth in your life, if you want to create healing in your life, if you want to create a new career or more satisfaction and fulfillment, whatever that thing is, you're looking at, all right, what are the things that I've tried to do before that have worked and that haven't worked? And where is it that I need to look at where I want to make a different choice? And even before you get there, it's thinking about who is it that I am when I have that thing. When you have a career that you love or a partner that you love, the thing that it is that you're creating, who is that version of you? How do they show up every day? What are the choices that they make? Because the way you close that gap between that person that you have intended to be in whatever area it is that you mapped out on January 1st or December 31st or whenever it is, whoever that person is that's on the other side of it, the way you close that gap is by making those daily choices, getting 1% closer to who that version is on the other side. And then what happens is eventually you close that gap, and all of a sudden you wake up one day and you realize, oh, I am that person now. And it's a really beautiful process. And I think also one of the maddening and least discussed things in the human experience is how much longer things sometimes take than we wish that they would. And we are a very impatient generation. I blame microwaves for this, but we are very impatient. And I understand patience can be a challenge. I have talked about this before. It was a big one for me. That was a big lesson for me. But you making the decision that there's something that you want in your life that is for your evolution, for your own growth, there is no roadmap for that. There is no set timeline for that. Your role in the co-creation process with the universe is to do your part. And your part is to set forth the intention. This is what it is that I desire in this area. This is who I desire to be. And then your part is to show up every day, not in perfection, because perfection doesn't exist. Perfection is bullshit. But to show up every day and make the choices, micro choice by micro choice, that bring you closer and closer to that version of you. and to continue to hold the vision and the feelings of the version of you that embodies that thing it is that you've intended. So, this is why I no longer believe in New Year's resolutions. And also, just as a gentle reminder, I'm going to say it again. The turning of the Gregorian calendar from December 31st to January 1st is an arbitrary, completely made up, universally agreed upon thing that does not have to define you and your future and your intentions and your planning and anything else unless you decide that it does. For those of you who are interested, I will drop the link in the show notes for the exercise that I mentioned. And if you need additional support, if you want to workshop these things together, if you want to do a planning session for the year ahead, I offer 90-minute intensives where we can really dive in and architect some of these things together and map this out for you. And then if you ultimately decide that you'd like to continue on with a coaching package with me, the cost of that intensive session is applied to your package. So I wanted to share that because that's a new offering that I have, because sometimes we just need like one session to go deep, and sometimes that gives you what you need. I also have another new offering this year in 2025 that I have never done before that I'm super excited about, where I'm going to be offering a workshop that is based around the research of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it is a proprietary program called Change Your Mind, Create New Results. And the really amazing thing about this program is that it can be taught to corporations, to teams, to businesses, as well as to individuals. And it is all about the neuroscience and biology of change. And it provides very practical, applicable tools and models that you can apply immediately to your life. And the results of this program are truly astounding. I have been fascinated, obsessed with change work, with teaching people how to change, with coaching people how to change. And this is a truly incredible program. If you are remotely called to create real lasting change in your life, or if you are looking to bring into your organization the power of creating change within individuals and teams so that your teams can be highly successful, highly performant, and overcome the stress and pressure that so often exists in corporate America now and creates a lot of degenerative, unproductive stress, competition, lack of collaboration, all those things that really don't do anything good for anybody, least of all the individual. It's in a really amazing offering, and I'm sharing that with you on this podcast so that if you feel called to really participate in taking this change deeper, reach out to me, because I have multiple modalities in which I'm going to be offering this workshop, and you really don't want to miss it. So I am wishing each and every one of you a truly incredible 2025 that allows you the space to grow and to evolve in exactly the right way for your unique soul journey in this human experience. And as always and forever, remember to sparkle on.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Courage to Rise podcast. Visit my website, couragetorise.com, for more information on one-on-one coaching, group coaching programs, and other upcoming events. Remember, life's too short not to sparkle. Sparkle on.